Gotta admit, I've never read a Stephen King book. The lengths have always intimidated me. So let's talk about this 95-minute long movie. The Dark Tower is a film adaptation of the long-running Stephen King book series. Here, a boy is having nightly dreams about a dark tower, a man in black, and a gunslinger, and he believes that it's all real. Eventually, this gets him swept away in an adventure to save all realities. And overall, this movie was a very confusing mixed bag of things because it felt like a pretty cool pilot for a TV show and a very incomplete movie. And I haven't read any of the books, as I mentioned before. I knew the general sorts of idea of it, and I've got a coworker that's been telling me all sorts of stories about it, trying to help me understand the world of it, and then seeing the movie, it doesn't live up to the epic hype surrounding the book series. So with all that said, let's go ahead and start talking about the good. And right off the bat, there's a certain level of intrigue to the mythology and the world building that's kind of going on here that makes you go, okay, so what's going on here? And what's the story behind that? And what's that over there? And each of these different things that you're intrigued by, there is a story behind it and ties to other things. And because I had a buddy of mine that's read all of the books and is kind of an expert on this kind of thing, after I saw the movie, he could kind of tell me a bunch of things. I went, oh, okay, so there was kind of a story for that. Oh, and there are details for that. Oh, that's where that came from. And even as kind of the casual Stephen King person that's seen some of the movie adaptations, is kind of aware of things but hasn't read any of the books, I'm watching the movie picking up on connection ties and how certain things work and fit together. So right off the bat, that just kind of makes it an intriguing world to be in. Continue on, the cast here is great. The star of it really is the boy. I don't know what the actor's name is, but he's very much the star of this movie. We're following his adventure through all of this, and he does a very good job in it and provides little moments of levity throughout it with these little comments that he makes that work. He was able to pull off that type of quirky, awkward tween humor in interacting with people, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. Obviously, Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey are going to do a great job with the material that they're given. Now, they're not given the most material here, but they do what they can with it. So, of course, they're always charismatic. They're always fun to see on screen, and I have several other actors in it find a way to pop a little bit and bring a little bit something to the screen. And also along the way, when the action happens, and when I say when the action happens, because it takes a while for the action to happen, it's very cool. There's some very cool gunslinger sequences in it. And even you just watch the trailer and the stuff where he's reloading. Of course, that's all cool. And they find a way to kind of tie in even kind of the way the gunslingers work and their slogan and the way it's directed. And very enjoyable when it happens. That's probably it for the good for this movie. Moving on to the bad, I didn't have a bunch of things about the movie that I hated. Really, there's nothing about the movie that I hated. It just always felt like this is not as cool. This is not as epic as it's supposed to be. And you keep teasing things that I'm intrigued by that you're not explaining to me. You're not giving an answer about what's going on. The whole movie feels like a tease of something bigger and better. Or if it was like like I said, it feels like a pilot for a TV show in that they keep doing things where they indicate that this other world is very old, lived in, and there's a lot of stuff there. And so they hinted that, they introduced something, but if it was a TV show, you'd be like, oh, so we're going to learn about that, in future episodes and we'll have a plot about that. When it's just a movie, I don't know if there's going to be a sequel. I don't know. Like, you're telling me I have to read 8,000 pages worth of Dark Tower books to get the answers to some of this stuff, and they just kind of tease the age of this world, and they tease this kind of other stuff that's kind of going on out here, but they don't really give you the answers that you want. They don't explore any of it, which gets really frustrating when you're talking about a movie that's only 95 minutes long, because you couldn't argue, well, you can only fit so much into a movie. You can't put 8,000 pages into this. That's right. You can't put all of it into one movie, but you can make a movie that's longer than 95 minutes. And so the whole thing just felt like the most streamlined, shortened version of it that sets up a bunch of other stuff that answers everything you want. Like the pilot for a TV series. Even kind of the structure of it, you're going along in the movie, and the pacing and setting things up didn't feel quite off until you really get back to New York City. And then it just flies by so fast, and it gets a lot better. Like, my favorite stuff probably happens as soon as Roland gets to New York City, and there's a little bit of fish out of water elements to it, an element that just make that I liked it a little bit more humor, less dry, kind of dried up a little bit as soon as the boy goes off to this other world. But then, I mean, it hits the third act, and it just happens very suddenly, like it's setting something up. And then we go straight into the third act, and the whole thing feels as if it was reshot, re-edited. They were doing something else. They had to cut things out. And so it just very quickly rushes through the third act to get to a showdown that happens, and then the movie just kind of ends very abruptly in a manner that even the way the movie ends feels like, and we'll see you next week for another adventure. Looking for the Dark Tower, or whatever the slogan for the show would be. And so that was the big frustration. Not that there was a big thing that I hated, not that it was so bad, that it just felt so incomplete. It felt so simplified and squished down and condensed, and every term you can come up with for taking this big epic thing and squishing it down to this small thing. That is what this movie felt like. Because that's what this movie is. And as the guy that hasn't read the book, I just kind of going, very weird way to do this. And especially all the sorts of things, knowing things about the books from talking to my buddy before seeing and after seeing it, you don't really get that. It's not explicit the way it ties to a bunch of this other stuff in the realm of Stephen King. It's not explicit at all. It's not really explained. Really nothing is explained. It's just like, we're the gunslingers. All right, where'd you come from? How long has this been going on? He's the man in black. He wants to tear down the tower. Why does he want to tear down the tower? I don't know. I don't really know. Well, so that this other thing can happen. But why does he want to do that? Why are these people helping him? Like, you don't really get answers to any of this stuff that you're wanting. And so a lot of frustrations with it. I wasn't necessarily bored. I wasn't particularly excited to do it. Didn't do any one thing particularly well. I've been debating exactly how to review this one, simply on the fact of the matter of there's nothing I hated, and there's nothing that I actually really loved about it, in which case you feel like it just kind of finds itself right there in the middle of things. So with all that in mind, I think I can't really recommend it, so I'm just going to go right underneath my recommended with a 5.5 out of 10. Even the more I talk about it, the more I was thinking about going 6, and I just had to go a little bit lower to that 5.5. And if I'm being honest, if this was the pilot for a TV show, I'd be like, all right, what's next week? What's the next episode? I'd be so excited about it. As a movie, though, I don't know what they were thinking, making it so short and with so few answers and not exploring any of it. And with the rumors about the movie, it feels an awful lot like they just had to cut it down to try and make one thing that was self-contained that worked, as opposed to a longer thing that was jumbled. And sorry, it didn't work this time. Anyway, that's my take on it as the guy that's never read a Stephen King book, never, of course, read a Dark Tower book for that exact same reason. How about you? What did you think about it? Tell me down below in the comment section. Let me know if you've read the books or not, so kind of fill in the gaps on where you fall on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I talked for like 20, 30 minutes with my buddy who's read the books about it after the movie was done, and I'm sure we'll talk about it tomorrow at work once again, once I've processed through it a little bit more and read some Wikipedia articles. With all that said, if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, ranking videos. Actually, I got a ranking video coming out in a couple days where I'm going to rank all the movies of the summer that I was able to see. I'd love it if you check that out and tell me your thoughts on all the movies of the summer on that video. With all that said, thank you so much for watching.